Welcome. Hi guys, welcome back. As always, I'm Dan at Tring Shoe Repair and Key Shop, and boy have I got a nice job for you today. Two jobs actually. We've got two pairs of premium shoes in. We've got these lovely Antony Cleverley shoes. All right, I'll even show you. They've got these lovely blue wooden shoe trees in. I know this is a customer that knows what he wants, and these George Cleverley hole cuts. Okay, keep watching to see what we do with them. Okay, so once again, welcome back. Now let me tell you about the jobs we've got. So first of all, on our Antony Cleverleys, they're almost in mint condition. They've not been repaired before, so that's not true. They have had a rubber stick-on sole on, which the customer wasn't too happy with, so took that off. So we are doing a bit of an upgrade. We're doing full JR leather heels. We are adding the Lulu toe plates, blind stitched. These already have a fiddleback waist, but the customer wanted to be a little bit more of a sharper, pronounced fiddleback, so we're altering that as well. And that is for those ones. And on the hole cuts, small job, we're just also adding Lulu plates to those as well. So let's get started. Okay gang, rock and roll. Now I think I'm going to start with the hole cuts, just because it's going to be a quick job and get it out of the way. Dessert before dinner, if you will. So what we're doing is just fixing on our Lulu toe plates. Okay, however, what we need to do is we've got these brass pins in the original sole, so we just need to scoop those out so so there's room for the new plate to go in. So obviously before we can get them on the last, just got to take our lovely shoe trees out. So I'm just using here these little snipper pliers almost, just to scoop in and get them out, sort of like pulling teeth. And so it makes me feel like an ant or something, little mandibles. So another reason we have to take these out is because we need to cut a portion of the leather away. The Lulu toe plates sit slightly recessed so that they are, you know, dead even with the top of the shoe rather than sitting on top of the sole. So we cut a little portion of the leather away, which you'll see in a minute, and of course if these pins were in, we wouldn't be able to get a knife through them. Come on, that one didn't want to come out. He was saying, no Mr. Dan, please don't pull me out. So now we need to work at cutting our little section away from the leather. Now your Lulu toe plates are perfect semicircle, okay, and of course our shoe is more of a squared toe, so unfortunately, well not unfortunately, but we just need to customize the Lulu a little bit and square it off. So I'm lining it up in such a way that it's covering all of the toe that it can, and then we're going to trim some of the toe plate away later. So I'm just taking a knife, making a score of where we need to cut the leather. Okay, now we can start cutting it out. All right, so now we can start cutting and start creating our little cavity. I think cavity is a good word. And we've come to our first hurdle. I realise I've run out of length on my knife, so let's just grab another one. There we are. And with any luck, I should just about be out. Here we are, ready for our Lulu plate. Next little hurdle I've come up against is our Lulu plate. Can you see, is ever so slightly curved from side to side, which might be good on some shoes, but this sole's completely flat, so we want the toe plate to be flat as well, so everything is dead smooth and there's no ridges. So I'm just going to give this a little tap with a hammer just to apply the metal a bit into the shape that we want. And let's see how it fits. Perfect. So I'll just take a pen no ridge. Great, so now we can screw it on. Now of course everyone has their own little methods of how they do things, so my next step is to just line up the plate exactly where we want it, and I'm just going to take my drill and make some tiny little pilot holes. And the reason for this is that sometimes the screws, when they're going into leather, can like to bend in a certain direction, and if they bend, they don't sit dead flush, which could just be a real headache. Cool, so now we can get our screws in. These are the original screws that come with the Lulu plates, little brass screws. Now, the next hurdle we've had to overcome, I should call this the hurdle video really, is that, God knows why, but the Lulu screws don't fit the Lulu plates perfectly. They sit a little bit proud, so what you have to do is countersink the holes in the plate, which is something I actually picked up from Steve at Bedo's. So last night I was in the garage countersinking these screw holes, which is something you didn't get to see, I'm afraid. Maybe I'll take you to the garage some other time. But now they're countersunk and these screws are going to fit perfectly nice and flush. Make sure to do them up nice and tight because this is metal work. It's supposed to be... Oops, I dropped one. Alright, so there's our Lulu on, and like I said, we just need to trim off the excess so it looks a little bit more like this one. And just a quick little blast with some fine sandpaper just to take off the sharp edges. So there we are, lovely jubbly, our Lulu toe plates. Don't worry, you'll get your slow motion close up at the end, you just got to wait till the end. However, for now, let's move on to the main event. Alright guys, let's get started on our Antony Cleverleys. Now, I'm just going to show you these shoe trees again because I really like these. I'd have bought these just for the shoe trees. Look at that, how nice is that? Now, the customer won't mind me telling you that these shoes cost £1,500, so that's why I've got the paper bag down for the whole repair. I'm going to be very meticulous just to keep these extra clean. But they're limited edition, they only made 100 of these, so it makes it quite a unique job. So let's get started with stripping the sole off. So let's get our little baby on the last. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually just pop the heel off. So now what we want to do is whip off the heel block with our trusty screwdriver. Don't judge me, gang, but what I'm going to do is just run around with my knife and just release the glue between the heel block and the sole. Just because, as I said before, with handmade shoes, they can be so delicate. If we're to just pull the heel block off on its own, which is normally fine, it can pull part of the shoe away. The heel counter can like to come away. Sometimes they only use sort of light staples to hold the counter onto the upper. Just very patiently, side to side. It can be tempting to just put a lot of elbow grease into this and lever it off in one go, but if we go slow and steady, then we're not going to have any problems. Cool, so taking the sole off, what you'll normally see me do is take my knife and cut just between the leather and the welts. Now what we've got on these though is they are perfectly waxed along the edge, and it's really hard to see that divide between the sole and the upper. So what I'm doing is just taking my knife, and for now I'm just scoring and letting the knife just sort of gently find that crease. There we go. Breaking the wax on the edge. And then once we've got a good idea where we're cutting, we can put a bit more effort into it and slice off resole. Now I've just cut through all the stitching and released the glue, but I can tell from doing the other shoe already that this sole's going to give us a bit of a fight to come off nicely. So I'm just going to do a couple of extra steps, which is to sand the sole down so it's a little thinner and put on some sole debonder, and that's just going to really loosen everything up. Alright, so our old sole is thinned down a little bit, and we're just going to use some of this resole, it's called, which just loosens up all of the old glue. Now I like to apply it with a sponge, just because then it doesn't splash everywhere, because this is, you know, slightly harsh stuff, so we don't want to get any on the uppers. And I'll tell you what, it's a lovely sunny day here in Tring today. So once that soaks in a bit, we're just going to apply some heat, and then our sole should just peel off. Almost forgot, we've got some nickel pins here to remove, so we'll get our bumblebee pincers again and scoop them out. And there we are. Now, what we've got in here, this is our fiddle back waist component. So next thing we've got to do is reach in, pull out the insole, and I won't do it now, I'll do it in a minute. So it's out of the way of those nails, so we can knock those nails through, out of the way, out of the footbed, ready for new ones. But before I do that, I've got to address an emergency. And that absolute disaster is, one of my Edison bulbs has blown. There's UPS man. Hello UPS man. Now then, I need your help folks. What shall I replace it with? So this is the one that's blown, and our choices are option A, big long fat one, or option B, short stumpy cool one. Everybody vote now. I'm just joking, you can't vote now, can you? Because it's not live. I'm going to use the round one because I think the filament, what do you call it? It's going to look quite cool once it's in. Ta-da! All right, back to business. Let's just knock these nails out. There's quite a lot of them. And then reach down inside with this guy and remove our nails. Okay. Oh, third nail, and he's already given me grief. Come on, Mr. Nail. I just want to be your friend. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is this is our fiddle back waist component. So this is the part that's inside the shoe that gives the waist of the sole that little hump of that distinctive pattern. Now, if you remember I said at the beginning, the customer wants us to modify this a little bit so that the fiddle back pattern is just a little bit more prominent and sharp. So what I've done is made a small insert that's going to give us more of a point. It's going to go in the middle, and this takes a lot of sanding and, you know, just judging it just right so it looks just right on the finished product, because you can have too much of a hump. But I'm just going to glue that together and then we can move on. So what's next? I hear you cry out in curiosity. We need to work at putting our new JR leather sole on. Now you probably know JR is pretty much the best leather you can buy. It's just top-notch stuff. They spend longer making it. It comes with a pretty price, but a lot of cobblers use it as their sort of deluxe offering because it just lasts that much longer and it's that much more comfortable. But before we can get the sole on, we need to run around the original shoe, pick out all the old stitching so that it's not in the way of the machine when we come to put our new stitching in. Okay, so picking the stitches out, I'm just using some very sharp pointed tweezers because I find that's the neatest way to get them out without messing up the welt too much. Now I'm not going to make you watch the whole of this because it takes a while, and a lot of people don't do it, to be honest, because it takes such a long time, but it's the proper way to do a job, especially for this customer and this job. He's paying for the full package, so we're going to do everything immaculately. All right, so stitches all out. Next thing we'll do is get our fiddle back insert in place. So dab of glue on the back. Now this is just a frame really for the sole to fold over. What we're going to do is sand the sole from the outside just to give it its finishing touch and get that really nice, neat shape going on. Okay, rock and roll, so we can start putting cement on our sole. Just before that, for you detail nerds that always ask me questions about the jobs, probably spent about 15 minutes removing the stitching. So, slow job, maybe, but you know, we're here to work. Anyway, it's not meant to be a walk in the park. Now what I'm doing is just filling up our glue. I'm using Renier Col de Cologne. So let's get sticky. Get loads of glue on our new nice premium JR sole. Now the JR leather is really absorbent, so we just put one coat on the shoe. I'm going to put 2 coats, maybe even 3 coats on the JR. You know, we sort of keep applying until it stops soaking in. So once the glue's soaked all the way into the fibres, it's not particularly on the surface anymore, and it just doesn't glue as well. Okay, so once it's had its second coat and it's all dry, we're going to head over to the heat lamp, heat it up, activate the glue, and press it together. All right, so now our sole's nice and hot. We can get him on. Now, as always, when we're doing these JR soles, we want to try and get the logo in the middle of the shoe. And, you know, no major reason really other than aesthetics. Okay. And he's on, I'm just going to give him a hammer. Now around the fiddle waist area, we want to be careful with a hammer that we don't get any hammer marks on it, because that wouldn't be very professional. And then we're just going to give him a press as well. Come and get your love. Come on. Oops. I left the heel press attachment on. Do you know what? Let's leave that in the video so that you can all see that I am just a man, flawed and imperfect. Okay. Okay, rock and roll. So what you just saw me do was use the Ranger to trim off the excess of our new sole. Now what I'm doing is heading back over to the machine to do a bit more sanding just to give it a nice flush finish. What we're working on here is shaping up our fiddleback waist. See, it's starting to come to shape. All right, but the reason we sand it, or rather sand it with a very fine grit sandpaper, is it has to be dead smooth before we can make it look finished. Give it a nice, shiny, uniformed finish base. It has to be dead smooth, so we're just going over and over with this fine sandpaper, starting with some slightly rougher grit just to get some shape, and then going finer and finer to make it dead smooth. Now, you know, everyone calls this a fiddleback waist. It's been called a fiddleback for centuries probably, but I sort of think it looks like a stingray or something. I think I'm going to try and make stingray happen. Spread the word, people. Stingray waist. Stingray, stingray, da-da-da-da-da, stingray, stingray, da-da-da-da-da. Who remembers that show? Okay, next. Next. Can you guess what's next? There's a clue right in front of you. I'll give you a minute. Last tacks. Alright, so we're stitching all of the sole on, well, with a blind stitch we're going to get to in a minute, but for the heel part of the sole we need to put last tacks in. Alright, so these are going to go straight through to the footbed, through the last, and then cinch over so that they don't hurt the customer's foot. Okay, rock and roll, we're getting there. So we're all last tacked on. I'm happy with our fiddleback. Now, before we get onto the hard bit, I'm just going to take a quick coffee and biscuit break. Alright guys, so just while we're on biscuit break, I just want to take 5. And you know, some people might say that's too many biscuits, but to those people I say, shut the front door, grow a backbone. But no, in all seriousness, I just wanted to take a minute to give a shout out to Steve over at Bedo's Leatherworks. A lot of you are probably familiar with Steve's channel. If you're not, check it out, Bedo's Leatherworks. He's an incredibly skilled cobbler and just a great chap as well. He's helped me out quite a bit recently. So I'll leave a link into his channel in the description. And that's it for now. Let's carry on. Okay guys, we're back and I've taken my apron off. I hope you don't mind. I just like to be a little bit more relaxed for this stage. So we need to stitch the sole on, and we're doing a blind stitch. Now, if you haven't seen a blind stitch before, it's where we cut away a flap, if you will, of the top of the leather. It peels away, and then the stitching is hidden underneath that, and we put the flap back down. But before we do that, we're just going to cut away the section for our toe plate. So we're doing the Lulus again for this pair, just the same as the other. And it's exactly the same as the last pair where it's a square toe. So it's just going to hang over just on the edge. And then we're going to make our mark. Hunky dory. And now we can cut our little section away. To make cutting the sole a little easier, we put a bit of water on it because the JR leather is very tough. Now some people have a squirty bottle. I just use some mineral water and a sponge. You hear that squeaking? That's the sound. Oh, that's the sound of leather not playing ball. With leather being a hide, it has grains in it, and sometimes you get a particularly tough little knot of grain, fibres, etc. Really tough to cut through. Okay gang, now it's time to do our blind stitch, and yeah, apron's back on. It's actually the next day, 2-day special, this one. Now for our blind stitch it can be a little tricky, so I've got here our lucky mascot. This is Ron, okay? So he's just going to sit here whilst we do our work. No, let's get him out of the way. So for our blind stitch, as I've said before, we're just cutting a very slim flap beneath the leather that's going to fold up so that we can then put our stitches in. You know, I always think when we're doing this job there should be some sort of tense music or some epic music. Let's see if we can find some epic Star Wars music. Now as we start to cut deep enough with our blind stitch, we're just going to apply some more water to relax the leather, and that will let the leather bend and curl nicely so we can start peeling back our flap just a little. Okay guys, so once we finish cutting our groove deep enough, I'm just going to peel back the leather enough to make room for the stitches. Okay, so now we head over to the groover and cut a channel for the stitches to sit in. Now just before we hit the stitcher, I wanted to address something in my Australia day night video. A lot of you thought you'd caught me out saying, hey, did you see that orange shoe at the end? He filmed the wrong shoe. Come on guys. Here's the orange shoe again, right? It's orange protective tape. Okay, so we put this around because stitchers are oily, dirty machines with sharp bits on, okay? And we put it around for when we're doing the polishing as well. And but do you really think I'd put something in my video that I didn't want to upload? Come on, let's do the stitching. Alright gang, so we're all stitched on, so next order of business is to glue down these flaps. So come here, Ron. So I've already done this side, so we're just gonna do this side. Alright, now we need to get right down in the crack so that it will glue properly and there's no bubbles or air pockets, etc. Nice layer of glue, and then same as usual, just gonna let it dry, heat it back up, and I'll show you how we put it back in place. There we are, we just roll this on. This is making sure that everything sits back firmly and in place. And that is how we do the blind stitch. Alright, now the meat and the potatoes of the sole is done, but it doesn't look quite presentable yet, so we're just going to trim around the edge again, finish up the sole some stain, and then we can move on to the next part of the job. Getting there. So our sole is really starting to look the business now. So you can see our stingray fiddle back there. The Lulu toe plates are on, and of course it's all waxed around the edge. So now we're on the home stretch. Let's move on to the heel blocks. Okay gang, heel blocks, here we are, here we go. So we've got our original heel blocks still and our new JR heels. So first thing we need to do is, the JR heels are smooth, so we need to rough them up on the band. So if I just give it a click, haha, roughed up. Can you tell I want to get this video finished? So the customer actually just messaged me to ask how the job's getting on. He's excited to get them back. So I said to him, my friend, we're storming ahead. So now, you know, so I didn't actually tell you, did I, at the beginning of the video? I think I'll put this in the video title. This is going to be the most expensive repair that I have done on the channel, for the channel at least. Since the channel's been running, I've done lots of similar jobs like this before, but not since the channel's been running. So, and in terms of the value of the shoes as well, like I said, this particular pair cost £1,500, and I'll tell you how much the repair cost at the end. Okay, so same as always, let it dry, heat it up, stick it together. Okay, so we've shaped around our heel and heel block. That little blue cone thing you saw is the breaster, and that's because the inside of this part of the heel is called the breast. So that's the apparatus that we use. So now we need to get some glue on so we can start securing our heel block in place. Oops, hold on folks, I missed a bit. So what I like to do is blacken up this inside edge first, polish it up before we put it on the shoe. So that's what I need to do on that. Oh God, it's all backwards, isn't it? I'll just show you a bit of glue on this and then I'll sort out the other heel in a minute, and then we can press it all together. All right, let's get our heel block on. Now, something we have to make sure is that we've got the left and right heel quarter on the right shoe, because I can tell you I've put it on the wrong shoe before and it sucks. It is not fun. Oh crikey, where's my hammer? Oh, hang on, I'm coming. And then of course, gonna give him a press for luck. There you go, luck, 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 luck. Right, cool, so now our heel's on. We just need to have one final trip to the machine to trim the heel down to shape. Now, I didn't mention earlier, this is a tapered heel, which means, tapered heel, what's this crazy person on about? It means it's pointier at the bottom than it is at the top, so we've got to angle it slightly. So let's get cracking. Okay, we're nearly there, people. So securing heel blocks. Now, you know, it might look pretty, but it's not structurally finished yet. I'll just put this paper down because I don't want to ruin the bottoms as we're nailing this. So we are using these buttress nails and long-nosed hammer. All right, and that's going to get down inside and secure our heel blocks from the inside out. So once that's done, a little dab of glue on the inside just to put the insole back down. Cover up those nails and give him a nice soft surface to put his foot on. So what I'm just doing here is finishing off with fine sandpaper, same as we did around the sole, because it's all shaped up, but the reason we do this is because it gives it a really smooth finish so that the wax will have a nice uniform shine. Okay, home stretch, we're nearly there, people. We're nearly there, people. Right, so we're just going to give the uppers a bit of attention. They don't really need much because customers kept them in such good condition, but we're just going to use the Sapphire cleanser just to get off just the tiny bits of dust and grime really that have got on it since it's been on in this unfortunate shop. But no, we're just going to give it a gentle clean and then a bit of polish, and we're done. Alright, so for our polishing, we're going to get this beautiful shoe tree back in. Sort of signalling the end of the job, isn't it? There it goes. And we're using a Sapphire Pat Deluxe, of course. Finest polish for a fine job like this. Now, we don't need a lot of this Pat Deluxe because they've already got a nice waxy finish already. So this is just a top up, really. So there we are, job done. Okay, cool everyone, our job is done. And I'm extremely happy with how this has come out. And I think the customers are going to be thrilled as well. So our Antony Cleverley's had a nice condition and polish, but mainly full JR leather soles, of course with blind stitch, JR dovetail heels, if I can get that in the light for you. Of course the Lulu toe plates, the custom fiddleback waist, and this nice glossy finish. So again, I think the customer's going to be thrilled. Now a lot of you have been asking for me to say how much the jobs cost at the end of my videos, so no time like the present. This job was £320 and being £1,500 shoes, value for money even there. Now, thanks for watching. That's the end of the video. If you made it all the way to the end, hit like. I enjoyed making this video. It was a fun job, so give us a like. It helps other people see this content. If you happen to be new to the channel, subscribe. I'm doing new videos every week. Lastly, if you are interested in a mail order job, get in touch with us on the Tring Shoe Repair Facebook page. That's the only place I can reliably get back to everybody, and we can talk about your job. And if you're one of my regulars, I will catch you next week. So cheers. I just have to show you guys, mid-production, I was looking for Ron the duck, my lucky mascot, and I could not find him anywhere. I'll put him in the bloody lollipops jar. I don't know what's wrong with me.